The ship was old. Commander Siltherin had served aboard many vessels in 400 years of life, but none felt as tired as the Velith Kai. Its metal walls groaned when it turned. Its engines coughed like a sick animal. The lights flickered at random times and the heating system worked only when it wanted to. But Siltherin did not complain. Complaints meant nothing to the Consortium Council. They had given their orders, and those orders were clear. Go into human space. Find out what happened to the 17 probes. Come back with answers. Simple orders, impossible orders. Siltherin stood at the observation window and looked out at the stars. Behind them lay the civilized galaxy. Thousands of worlds, hundreds of species, millions of years of history. The Galactic Consortium controlled it all with quiet efficiency. They did not rule through war or violence. They ruled through age. The oldest species made the decisions. The youngest species followed. That was the natural order. Humans were young, very young. They had only discovered space travel 300 years ago. In the eyes of the Consortium, they were children. Babies, really. They should have been easy to bring into the fold. They should have accepted their place at the bottom of the ladder and worked their way up over the next million years like every other species. But humans did not do what they should have done. First contact happened 200 years ago. A Consortium diplomatic vessel approached Earth with offers of trade and friendship. The humans listened politely. They asked questions. They took notes. Then they said no. Not just no. They said they wanted to be left alone. They said they would mark their territory, and anyone who crossed into it without permission would face consequences. The diplomats laughed at this. What consequences could such a young species deliver? Humans had barely reached their own moon. Their technology was primitive. Their military was nothing. The diplomats stopped laughing when every system on their ship shut down at once. Life support, engines, weapons, communications, everything. For exactly 60 seconds, they floated in darkness, helpless. Then the power returned, and a single message appeared on every screen. This is your only demonstration. There will not be another. Leave now. The diplomats left. They reported what happened to the council. The council sent a warship to teach the humans respect. That warship was never seen again. No distress signal, no debris, no bodies. It simply vanished. The council sent 3 more warships. They vanished too. After that, the council decided that human space was not worth the trouble. They drew a line on their maps and told everyone to stay away. Warning beacons appeared along the border, broadcasting in 12,000 languages. The message was always the same. You are approaching Terran sovereignty space. Entry without authorization is prohibited. This is your only warning. For 200 years, no one had crossed that line and returned to tell about it. 17 probes had been sent over the decades. 17 probes had gone silent the moment they entered human space. No data, no images, nothing. Now Siltherin was being sent to find out why. The commander turned away from the window and walked through the narrow corridors of the ship. The crew was small, 12 beings from 6 different species. All of them had been chosen for this mission because they were expendable. Siltherin knew this. The crew knew this. No one talked about it. In the common room, the crew sat around a metal table and ate their evening meal in silence. There was Kethrin, a young officer with bright blue scales and nervous eyes. There was Dr. Veth, the medical officer, whose forearms moved constantly even when she was sitting still. There was Torak, the engineer, a massive creature covered in thick brown fur, who rarely spoke, but always listened. And there were 9 others. Each one had a story. Each one had a reason for being here. Some were criminals working off their sentences. Some were soldiers who had failed their commanders. Some were simply unlucky. Siltherin sat down at the head of the table. The crew looked up with tired eyes. "We crossed the beacon line in 6 hours," Siltherin said. "I want everyone at their stations. Full alert. All systems ready." "Ready for what?" Kethron asked. His voice was higher than usual. Fear did that to him. "We don't even know what we're facing. No one knows anything about the humans. They could have weapons we've never seen, defenses we can't imagine." "Then we will learn," Siltherin said calmly. "That is why we are here. To learn. To die. Torak muttered. His voice was deep like distant thunder. "We are here to die. The Council knows we will not return. They sent us because they do not care if we live or die." Silthern did not argue with this. There was no point in arguing with the truth. "Perhaps," the commander said, "but until we die, we will do our duty. We will gather what information we can. We will learn what we can about the humans. And if we are lucky, we will find a way to survive." The crew said nothing. They finished their meals and went to their stations. 6 hours passed slowly. The Velethkai moved through empty space toward the invisible line that marked the edge of human space. There were no planets here, no stations, no other ships. Just darkness and stars and the cold silence of the void. And then the beacons appeared. They were small. Smaller than Siltherin expected. Each one was no bigger than a cargo container, floating in the darkness like tiny metal insects. But there were thousands of them. Millions, maybe. They stretched across space in every direction, forming a wall that went on forever. Every beacon was broadcasting the same message. The words filled every speaker on the ship. They appeared on every screen. They seemed to echo inside Siltherin's own mind. "You are approaching Terran sovereignty space. Entry without authorization is prohibited. This is your only warning." The voice was calm, pleasant almost. It did not sound like a threat. It sounded like a polite reminder. This made it worse somehow. A threat could be challenged. A polite reminder was just a fact. "All stations report," Siltherin ordered. "Weapons ready," came the first response. "Shields at full power. Engines running normally. Sensors are active. No contacts detected." The reports continued. Everything was working. Everything was ready. But ready for what? Siltherin took a deep breath. "Take us across." The Velethkai moved forward. The beacons grew larger on the screens. The message continued playing, over and over, in that same calm voice. Siltherin watched the distance counter tick down. 1,000 kilometers. 500. 100. 50. They crossed the line. For a moment, nothing happened. The ship continued moving. The engines continued humming. The screens continued showing empty space. Then every light on the ship flickered. It was not a power failure. The systems did not shut down. They simply flickered all at once, for exactly 1 second, as if something had touched them, as if something had reached into the ship and brushed its fingers across every wire and circuit. "What was that?" Kethrin shouted. His voice cracked with fear. "What just happened?" "Unknown," the sensor officer reported. Her voice was shaking. "I detected something, a pulse of some kind. It passed through the ship, through everything. I don't know what it was." "Are we damaged?" Siltherin asked. "No. All systems are still functioning, but..." The sensor officer paused. "Commander, I think we were scanned. I think something looked at us. At everything. Our systems, our cargo, our crew. Can you locate the source?" "No, it came from everywhere, from the beacons, from space itself. I can't explain it." Siltherin gripped the arms of the command chair. They had been in human space for less than a minute, and already they were facing technology they did not understand. This was not a good sign. "Continue on course," the commander ordered. "Stay alert. Report anything unusual." The ship moved deeper into human space. Minutes passed, then hours. Nothing happened. The screens showed only stars. The sensors detected nothing. It was as if the entire region was completely empty. But Siltherin knew better. They were being watched, studied. Whatever had scanned them was still out there, waiting to see what they would do. The crew grew more nervous as time passed. They spoke in whispers. They jumped at small sounds. Even Torak, who feared nothing, kept looking over his shoulder as if expecting something to appear behind him. "This is wrong," Dr. Veth said quietly. She had come to the bridge to check on the commander's stress levels. Her medical scanner beeped softly as she waved it over Siltherin's chest. "There should be something here, patrol ships, defense stations, something. No civilization leaves its borders unguarded." "Unless the borders are not meant to keep us out," Siltherin replied. "Perhaps they are meant to let us in." "Why would they want that?" "I do not know, but think about it. The beacons warn us away, but they do not stop us. The scan touched us, but it did not harm us. We have been in human space for hours and nothing has attacked us. If the humans wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already. Dr. Veth considered this. Then what do they want? Perhaps they want to see what we will do. Perhaps they are curious about us, just as we are curious about them. Before the doctor could respond, the sensor officer spoke up. Commander, contact detected. Siltherin turned to the main screen. Show me. The image changed. In the center of the screen, a small point of light was growing larger. The computer analyzed the contact and displayed its findings. One ship, small, smaller than the Velithkai. No visible weapons, no shields, no armor. It was approaching at a steady speed, not fast but not slow either. It made no attempt to hide. Identify, Siltherin ordered. Unknown design, the sensor officer said. The hull material is... I don't recognize it. The propulsion system is not on any of our records. But Commander, there's something strange. What? The ship is broadcasting no identification, no registration codes, no species markers, nothing. It's like it doesn't want us to know what it is. The sensor officer paused. But I am detecting one life sign aboard. Just one. One being? On a ship that size? Yes, Commander, one being. And Commander, the sensor officer's voice dropped. The life sign is human. The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at the screen. The small ship grew larger as it approached. It looked harmless, simple, almost crude compared to consortium vessels. But something about it filled Siltherin with a deep, cold fear. Should we raise weapons? Catherine asked. His hand hovered over the control panel. No, Siltherin said immediately. Do nothing. We are in their space. We came uninvited. If we attack first, we will not survive. If we don't attack first, we might not survive anyway. Then we will die with honor. We will not die as murderers. The human ship continued approaching. It made no threatening moves. It did not change course or speed. It simply came closer, steady and calm, like a predator that knew its prey could not escape. When it was close enough to see without magnification, the ship stopped. It hung in space a few hundred meters from the Velithkai, waiting. Then the communication system crackled to life. Consortium vessel. Velithkai, a voice said. It was a woman's voice, warm, friendly, almost welcoming. This is Captain Alara Vance of the Terran Shepherd Corps. I will be boarding your ship now. Please do not resist. I am coming alone and unarmed. I mean you no harm. The crew looked at each other. Coming aboard? Alone? Unarmed? Commander, Catherine whispered, this could be a trap. Of course it is a trap, Siltherin replied. Everything about this is a trap, but we have no choice. Open the airlock. Let her in. But Commander, that is an order. Catherine hesitated for a long moment. Then he pressed the button to open the airlock. They waited. The minutes stretched out like hours. Siltherin could hear the crew breathing, could hear hearts beating, could hear the fear that filled the ship like a thick fog. Then the airlock door opened and the human stepped inside. She was smaller than Siltherin expected. Most of the crew towered over her. She had brown skin and dark hair cut short. Her eyes were a deep brown color that seemed to see everything at once. She wore a simple gray uniform with no rank symbols and no decorations. She carried nothing in her hands. But it was her face that struck Siltherin the most. She was smiling. Not a cruel smile or a threatening smile. A genuine smile. A warm smile. As if she was happy to see them. Commander Siltherin, she said. Her voice was the same as on the communication system. Friendly. Calm. Thank you for letting me aboard. I know this must be frightening for you. I promise. I am here to help. Help us? Siltherin managed to say. You are here to help us? Yes, Alara said. I am a shepherd. It is my job to find ships that cross into our space and offer them a choice. You have entered our territory without permission. Now you must decide what happens next. And what are our options? Alara's smile did not fade, but something in her eyes grew serious, something ancient and sad. You can stay, she said. You can become citizens of Terran space. You will be protected. You will be free. You will never have to fear the consortium again. And if we do not wish to stay, then you can leave, but you will remember nothing of what you have seen here. Your memories of this journey will be removed. You will wake up at the edge of consortium space with no knowledge of what happened. To you, it will be as if this mission never occurred. Siltherin stared at her. Those are our only choices? Yes. What if we try to fight? What if we try to escape and bring information back to the consortium? Alara's smile faded slightly, just slightly, but the change was enough to make Siltherin's blood run cold. No one has ever succeeded in that, she said softly. Many have tried, all have failed. Some of them are remembered in our memorials. We do not celebrate their deaths, we mourn them. But we will not allow information about our people to reach those who would use it to harm us. She paused. I hope you understand, Commander. We do not want to hurt anyone. We never have. But there are lines that cannot be crossed. There are secrets that must be kept. And there are consequences for those who try to break our peace. She looked around at the crew. Her eyes moved from face to face, studying each one with an intensity that made them look away. I know all of you, she said quietly. I know your names, your families, your histories. I know why each of you was chosen for this mission. I know the consortium considered you expendable, worthless, sacrifices that would not be missed. She met Siltherin's eyes again. We do not think you are worthless. We do not think anyone is expendable. That is why I am here. That is why I am offering you a choice instead of simply destroying your ship. How do you know so much about us? Catherine demanded. His voice was shaking, but anger had replaced some of the fear. You said you know our names, our families. How is that possible? Ilara turned to him. Her smile returned, but it was gentler now, sadder. We have been watching you for a very long time, Catherine. We have been watching everyone. Not to control you, not to spy on you, but to understand you, to know who might come to our borders and why. She tilted her head slightly. You would be surprised how much you can learn about a civilization by watching it. You would be surprised what secrets you can uncover. What secrets? Torak asked. His deep voice rumbled through the bridge. Ilara looked at him. That is not for me to tell. Not yet. First, you must make your choice. Will you stay or will you leave? Siltherin looked at the crew. Their faces showed fear, confusion, curiosity, and hope. Such strange emotions to feel while standing before a representative of a species that had destroyed every ship sent against it. How long do we have to decide? Siltherin asked. Take as long as you need, Ilara said. I am not here to rush you. I am here to guide you. Whatever you decide, I will help you. That is what shepherds do. We guide lost travelers to safety. We show them the path. We give them the choice that no one else will give them. She spread her hands. So, Commander, what would you like to know? I will answer any question you have, truthfully, completely, and then you can decide what to do. Siltherin took a deep breath. The fear was still there, deep in the commander's chest. But something else was growing alongside it, something that felt almost like hope. Tell me everything, Siltherin said. Tell me about your people. Tell me why you hide. Tell me what you are so afraid of. Ilara nodded slowly. Very well, she said. But I warn you, Commander, what I am about to tell you will change everything you believe about the galaxy. It will show you truths that the consortium has hidden for centuries. And once you know these truths, you will never be able to unknow them. I understand. Then let us begin. And so she did. Ilara Vance stood in the center of the bridge like she belonged there. The crew of the Velith Kai watched her with a mixture of fear and fascination. She was so small, so ordinary. She looked like nothing special at all. But there was something in her eyes, something old, something patient, something that made Siltherin believe every word she said. The consortium teaches that humans are young, Ilara began. She walked slowly around the bridge, looking at the screens and controls with casual interest. They teach that we discovered space travel 300 years ago, that we are primitive, that we are no threat to anyone. She stopped and turned to face the crew. This is a lie. Catherine made a sound of disbelief. A lie? The consortium does not lie. They have records, historical data, proof. They have what we wanted them to have, Alara said calmly. We let them see what we wanted them to see. When their diplomats first came to Earth 200 years ago, we had already been watching the galaxy for almost a century. We had ships traveling between stars while the consortium thought we were still playing with rockets. We had technology that made their most advanced systems look like children's toys. Impossible, Dr. Veth said. Her four hands gripped each other nervously. How could you hide something like that? The consortium has sensors everywhere, monitoring stations, spy satellites. They would have seen you. They did not see us because we did not want to be seen, Alara replied. Your sensors are good, Doctor. Very good, but they can only find what they are looking for. Our ships do not use the same energy signatures as yours. Our technology does not produce the same radiation. We are invisible to your sensors because we designed ourselves to be invisible. She smiled slightly. Also, your sensors have limitations that the consortium does not like to talk about. Blind spots, gaps in coverage. We found those gaps a long time ago. We have been using them ever since. Siltheren's mind was racing. If what you say is true, then why did you hide? Why pretend to be weak? You could have joined the consortium as equals. You could have taken your place among the elder species. Alara's smile faded. Something dark passed through her eyes. We could have, she said quietly. We almost did. When we first started observing the galaxy, we were excited. So many species, so many civilizations, so much knowledge to share. We thought we had found family among the stars. She walked to the main observation window and looked out at the darkness. Then we saw what the consortium really was. What do you mean? Torak asked. The consortium likes to call itself a peaceful organization, Alara said without turning around. They claim they bring order and stability to the galaxy. They say they protect younger species from their own mistakes. They say they are teachers, guides, friends. She turned back to face the crew. Her eyes were hard now, cold. They are slavers. The word hung in the air like a bad smell. No one spoke. No one moved. The Client Species Program, Alara continued. You all know about it. The consortium takes young species under its protection, teaches them, guides them, helps them develop. In exchange, these species provide labor, resources, soldiers for the consortium's wars. That is not slavery, Catherine protested, but his voice was weak. It is partnership, mutual benefit. The client species gain knowledge and protection. The consortium gains assistance. Everyone benefits. Do they? Alara asked. Tell me, Catherine, how many client species have ever graduated to full membership in the consortium? How many have ever become equals to the elder species? Catherine opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. He could not think of any. None, Alara said. In 10 million years of consortium history, not a single client species has ever risen to equal status. They serve, they labor, they die in wars that do not concern them. And when they become too troublesome or too expensive, they are discarded. Discarded? Dr. Veth's voice was barely a whisper. There are species that no longer exist, Alara said. Species that the consortium records claim died out naturally. Disease, civil war, environmental collapse. These are the official explanations. But we have found the truth. We have found the evidence that the consortium destroyed. She paused. Some of those species were exterminated because they asked for fair treatment. Some were destroyed because they had resources the elder species wanted. Some were simply in the way. You have proof of this? Siltheren demanded. We have proof of everything, Alara said. We have been collecting evidence for 2 centuries. Documents, recordings, testimony from survivors. We know what the consortium has done. We know what they are still doing. She looked around at the crew. Why do you think they sent you here? 12 expendable beings on an old ship with no chance of survival. They knew you would probably die. They did not care. To them, you are just tools, resources to be used and thrown away. Silence filled the bridge. The crew looked at each other. Some of them were angry, some were scared, some looked like they might cry. Siltheren felt something breaking inside. 400 years of service to the consortium, 400 years of loyalty, 400 years of believing in the system, And now this human, this small and strange being, was telling him it was all a lie. "Why should we believe you?" Silthrin asked. "You are the enemy. You could be lying to turn us against our own people." Ilara nodded slowly. "You are right to be suspicious. Trust must be earned, not demanded. I cannot force you to believe me. I can only show you the evidence and let you decide for yourself." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. It was flat and round, no bigger than a coin. She pressed a button on its surface, and suddenly the air was filled with light. Images appeared all around them, floating in the air like ghosts. Documents with consortium seals, video recordings of meetings between elder species, communications between military commanders, financial records showing payments for services that had no names, and testimonies. Beings from dozens of species speaking into cameras, telling their stories, describing what had happened to their worlds, their families, their people. One image showed a planet burning. Fires covered its surface from pole to pole. A voice said, "This was Velthora. Population 4 billion. They requested independence from the consortium." This was the response. Another image showed rows of beings in chains, thin and weak and hopeless. A voice said, "Mining Colony 17. Workers extracted from client species territories. Average lifespan, 3 years. Replacement cost, negligible." Another showed a nursery, empty cribs, scattered toys. A voice said, "The children were taken to be raised as servants for the elder houses. The parents were told their offspring had died in an epidemic." The images went on and on. Horror after horror. Crime after crime. The consortium's true face, revealed in terrible detail. When the display finally ended, the bridge was silent. Several crew members had tears on their faces. Others looked sick. Kethron had fallen to his knees, staring at nothing. "I am sorry," Ilara said softly. "I know this is painful. I know it destroys everything you believed. But you deserve to know the truth. You deserve to understand what you have been serving." Silthrin's hands were shaking. "Why did you not reveal this to the galaxy? Why did you not show everyone what the consortium has done?" "We considered it," Ilara replied. "We debated it for decades. In the end, we decided against it." "Why?" "Because it would start a war. A galactic war. Billions would die. Civilizations would collapse. The suffering would be beyond imagination." Ilara shook her head. "We did not want that. We do not believe in violence unless there is no other choice. So we chose a different path." "What path?" "We waited. We watched. We prepared. And we began to change things from the inside." "What do you mean from the inside?" Ilara smiled. It was a mysterious smile. A knowing smile. "There are humans living in consortium space right now," she said. "Thousands of them. They look like other species. They speak like other species. They have been altered so that no scanner can detect what they really are. They have integrated into your societies, your governments, your institutions." The crew stared at her in shock. "They are not spies," Ilara continued quickly. "Not in the way you might think. They do not steal secrets or sabotage systems. They teach. They inspire. They spread ideas, freedom, equality, dignity, rights, concepts that the consortium has suppressed for millions of years." "You are trying to change the consortium from within," Silthrin realized. "Yes, slowly, carefully, generation by generation. We plant seeds. We nurture them. We wait for them to grow. It is slow work. It will take centuries, maybe longer. But eventually the consortium will change, not because we conquered them, but because their own people demanded something better." Dr. Veth shook her head in amazement. That is an incredible strategy, but so risky. If you were discovered, we would be destroyed," Ilara agreed. "That is why we hide. That is why we guard our borders so carefully. The consortium cannot know what we are doing. If they learned the truth, they would stop at nothing to eliminate us." "And the ships that entered your space?" Torak asked. "The warships that disappeared, the probes that went silent. What happened to them?" Ilara's expression became sad. "Most were given the same choice I am giving you. Stay or leave with no memories. Most chose to leave. They returned to consortium space with no knowledge of what they had seen. Their minds were healed, not damaged. They lived normal lives. They never knew how close they came to the truth. And those who refused? Those who tried to fight? Ilara was silent for a long moment. We do not enjoy killing, she said finally. We mourn every death we have caused. We record every name. We remember every face. But there are some who cannot be allowed to return, some who would bring war to our doorstep, some who would reveal our secrets and doom everything we have worked for. She met Siltharan's eyes. Those beings were given every chance to choose peace. They refused. They attacked us. They tried to escape with information that would endanger our people, and so they were stopped. Stopped, Catherine repeated from where he knelt on the floor. You mean killed? Yes. Then you are no different from the consortium. You talk about peace and freedom, but in the end, you kill anyone who threatens you. Ilara's face changed. For just a moment, Siltharan saw something terrible in her eyes, something ancient and powerful and sad beyond words. You are wrong, she said quietly. There is a difference. The consortium kills to control, to dominate, to maintain their power over others. We kill only to protect. Only when there is no other choice. Only when the alternative is the destruction of everything we love. She knelt down in front of Catherine. Her voice was gentle. We do not want to be powerful, Catherine. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to be left alone to build our society and raise our children and live in peace. That is all we have ever wanted. But the galaxy will not leave us alone. So we hide. We guard our borders. And when we must, we fight. She stood up again. I will not lie to you and say we are perfect. We are not. We have made mistakes. We have done things we regret, but we try. Every day we try to be better than we were the day before. That is all anyone can do. Siltharan stepped forward. You said you would answer any question truthfully. I have one more. Ask, what do you want from us? Why are you really here? Not just to offer us a choice. You want something else. I can feel it. Ilara was quiet for a long time. She looked at each crew member in turn, studying their faces, reading their thoughts. You are perceptive, Commander, she said at last. Yes, there is something else, something I hope to find here. What? Hope. The word was simple, but the way she said it carried a weight of meaning that Siltharan did not fully understand. We have been hiding for 200 years, Ilara explained, waiting, watching, working in the shadows. It is exhausting, isolating. Sometimes we wonder if we are doing the right thing. Sometimes we wonder if the galaxy can ever really change. She spread her hands. Then ships like yours come across our border. Crews like yours. Beings from different species working together. Following orders you know are wrong because you believe in something bigger than yourselves. Sacrificing your lives for a society that does not care about you. Her eyes grew bright with emotion. And I offer you a choice. And some of you choose to stay. Some of you choose freedom over safety. Truth over comfortable lies. That gives us hope, Commander. That tells us the galaxy is not beyond saving. That tells us our work is not in vain. She smiled. So yes, I want something from you. I want you to show me that the universe still has good people in it. I want you to remind me why we fight, why we hide, why we wait. Siltharan looked at the crew. They looked back at him. Something had changed in their eyes. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Curiosity, wonder, and yes, maybe a little bit of hope. You said some of us might choose to stay, Siltharan said slowly. What happens if we do? What kind of life would we have in human space? A free life, Ilara replied simply. You would become citizens of the Terran sovereignty. You would have the same rights as any human. You would be protected by our laws. You would never have to fear the consortium again. They would think we were dead. Yes, we would make it look like your ship was destroyed. The consortium would add your names to their list of losses. They would forget about you. And you would be free to build a new life. What if we want to contact our families? Let them know we are alive? Ilara's expression became sad. That is the one thing we cannot allow. Any contact with the consortium would risk exposing us. Your families would have to believe you are dead. I know that is hard. I know it is a terrible sacrifice. But it is the price of freedom. Siltherin nodded slowly. It was a high price. A very high price. But looking around at the crew, looking at the evidence still burned into his memory, he wondered if it was worth it. How long do we have to decide? He asked. Take all the time you need, Alara said. I will stay aboard your ship. I will answer any questions you have. And when you are ready, each of you can tell me your choice. Individually, in private, no pressure. No judgment. She walked toward the door of the bridge. I will be in your common room. Come find me when you are ready to talk. And then she was gone. The crew stood in silence for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. Questions, arguments, fears, hopes. The noise filled the bridge like a storm. Siltherin did not join in. Instead, the commander walked to the observation window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was human space, a hidden civilization, a patient power, a society that had chosen to wait rather than conquer, to change from within rather than destroy from without. It was the opposite of everything the consortium believed, the opposite of everything Siltherin had been taught, and somehow, impossibly, it felt right. The commander thought about 400 years of service. All the orders followed, all the missions completed, all the sacrifices made in the name of the consortium. And then Siltherin thought about freedom, real freedom, the kind of freedom that meant never having to follow an unjust order again. The choice was not as hard as it should have been. The commander turned away from the window and walked toward the common room. The crew watched in surprise, but no one tried to stop him. They were all too busy with their own thoughts, their own choices. Ilara was sitting at the metal table when Siltherin arrived. She looked up with that calm, patient smile. That was quick, she said. I have made my decision, Siltherin replied. Already? Don't you want more time to think? I have been thinking for 400 years. I have been pretending not to see the truth for 400 years. I am tired of pretending. Siltherin sat down across from her. I want to stay. I want to see this world of yours. I want to know what real freedom looks like. Ilara's smile grew wider, warmer. Then welcome to Terran space, Commander. Welcome home. She reached across the table and took Siltherin's hand. I think you are going to like it here. And somehow, Siltherin believed her. 6 of them chose to stay. Siltherin was the first. Then came Torak, the massive engineer who had always questioned orders but followed them anyway. Dr. Veth followed, her 4 hands trembling as she told Ilara she wanted to practice medicine in a place where patients were people, not numbers. 2 junior officers, a brother and sister from a species that had been client races for 1,000 generations, chose freedom over everything they had ever known. And finally, to everyone's surprise, there was Kethran, the young officer who had argued against trusting the humans, who had knelt on the floor in shock when he saw the evidence, who had accused Ilara of being just as bad as the consortium. He came to the common room last, his scales dull with exhaustion, and spoke only 3 words. I will stay. No one asked him why. No one needed to. The other 6 crew members chose to leave. They would return to consortium space with no memories of what had happened. They would live their lives. They would never know how close they came to the truth. Ilara did not judge them. She did not try to change their minds. She simply nodded and told them she understood. Fear of the unknown was natural. Loyalty to home and family was admirable. There was no shame in choosing safety. The memory procedure was quick and painless. One by one, the departing crew members were taken to a small room on Ilara's ship. They sat in comfortable chairs. They closed their eyes. When they opened them again, they remembered nothing. Siltherin watched them go, watched them walk back to the Velith Kai with confused expressions on their faces. Watched them prepare to return to a galaxy that did not deserve their loyalty. It hurt, but it was their choice. And choice, Siltherin was beginning to understand, was sacred to humans. The 6 who stayed were brought aboard Ilara's small ship. It was larger inside than it appeared from outside, another piece of human technology that made no sense. The corridors were wide and comfortable. The lighting was soft and warm. Everything felt welcoming. Safe. We have a journey ahead of us, Ilara said as the ship pulled away from the empty Velith Kai. I am taking you to New Eden. It is one of our colony worlds. You will be safe there while you adjust to your new lives." "How long will the journey take?" Dr. Veth asked. "About 3 hours." Torak made a rumbling sound of disbelief. 3 hours? To travel to a colony world? That would take weeks in a consortium vessel. Ilara smiled. "Our engines are somewhat faster than yours." That was an understatement. When the ship engaged its main drive, the stars outside the windows blurred into lines of light. The ship shuddered once, gently, and then everything was smooth. Smoother than any journey Silthern had ever experienced. 3 hours later, they arrived at New Eden. It was beautiful. Silthern had seen many worlds in 400 years. Barren rocks, frozen wastelands, jungle planets so thick with life you could barely walk, industrial worlds covered in factories and smoke. But nothing had prepared Silthern for New Eden. The planet was green and blue and gold. Great continents covered with forests and meadows stretched across its surface. Oceans sparkled in the light of a yellow sun. White clouds drifted lazily through the atmosphere. And the cities. They were unlike any cities Silthern had ever seen. They did not rise above the landscape in towers of metal and glass. They did not sprawl across the land in endless grids of concrete. Instead, they seemed to grow from the planet itself. Buildings flowed between trees like rivers. Gardens covered every roof. Parks surrounded every structure. It was impossible to tell where nature ended and civilization began. "How?" was all Silthern could say. "We had time to plan," Ilara explained. "We did not rush into the stars like most species. We spent centuries developing technologies that would let us live with our planets rather than against them. Clean energy, sustainable materials, ecosystems that include buildings rather than exclude them." She gestured toward a city visible below. "That is harmony. Population, 3 million. Energy consumption, nearly zero. Waste production, actually zero. Every resource is recycled. Every building produces more than it consumes. The city makes the planet healthier, not sicker." "That is impossible," Catherine said. His voice was weak. He had spoken little since his decision to stay. "Cities destroy environments. That is just how it is." "The cost of progress." "Only if you define progress by the standards of the consortium," Ilara replied gently. "They believe progress means growth, more territory, more resources, more power. We believe progress means harmony, balance, sustainability. Different philosophies lead to different outcomes." The ship descended through the atmosphere. Up close, the city was even more remarkable. The buildings were made of materials Silthern did not recognize. Some seemed to be living plants, shaped and grown into structures. Others were made of a crystal-like substance that shifted colors with the light. People walked through the streets below, humans mostly, but also beings from other species. Dozens of different species living side by side, walking together, talking, laughing, playing. "Those are not all humans," Dr. Veth observed. "No," Ilara agreed. "New Eden has a large population of refugees, beings who escaped from the consortium, former client species who refuse to serve anymore, survivors of worlds the consortium destroyed. We take in anyone who asks for help." "Even your enemies," Ilara smiled. "We try not to have enemies. Some beings have done terrible things. Some have served the consortium willingly. Some have even fought against us. But everyone can change. Everyone deserves a second chance. That is what we believe." The ship landed on a platform surrounded by flowering trees. The air that entered when the doors opened smelled sweet, fresh, alive. Silthern stepped outside and felt the sun on their face. For the first time in 400 years, they felt truly at peace. A welcome party was waiting for them. A small group of humans and aliens, smiling and waving. Among them was an old woman in a simple white robe. Her hair was silver. Her face was lined with age. But her eyes were bright and sharp and full of warmth. "Welcome to New Eden," she said in a voice that somehow carried clearly, despite being soft. "I am Grandmother Yuki. I will be your guide during your first days here." "Grandmother?" Torak asked. "Is that your title or your name?" Yuki laughed. It was a wonderful sound, like bells ringing. "Neither, really. It is just what the children call me, and it's spread to the adults. I have been alive for a very long time. I have seen many things. People come to me for advice, like they would a grandmother, so the name stuck. How old are you? Kethran asked. He seemed more curious than hostile now. The beauty of this world was softening his defensive edges. 347 years, Yuki replied calmly. I was born on Earth before the Great Expansion. I remember what it was like when humans still lived on only one world. Siltharan was shocked. 347? But humans are supposed to have short lifespans. The consortium records say you live only 80 or 90 years. The consortium records say many things that are not true, Yuki said with a slight smile. Our medical technology advanced rapidly in the last few centuries. Disease has been eliminated. Aging can be slowed, even reversed. Death comes eventually for all of us, but it is no longer a rush. She gestured toward the city. Come, let me show you your new home. They walked through Harmony together. Yuki moved slowly, pointing out things of interest, explaining how everything worked. The buildings that generated their own power through photosynthesis, the transportation network that moved people without noise or pollution, the food gardens on every corner where anyone could pick fresh fruits and vegetables for free, and the people. Everywhere they went, people smiled at them, waved at them. Some came up to welcome them personally, pressing their hands and speaking words of greeting. No one asked where they came from or why they were here. No one looked at them with suspicion or fear. This is strange, Torak rumbled. In the consortium, different species do not mix like this. There are hierarchies, social orders, rules about who can speak to whom. We do not have those rules here, Yuki said. We believe that every being has equal worth. No species is better than another. No individual is more valuable than another. We are all just people trying to live our lives. But you must have leaders, Siltharan pressed. Someone must make decisions, enforce laws, maintain order. We have coordinators, Yuki agreed. People who volunteer to manage certain aspects of society. Infrastructure, resource distribution, conflict resolution. But they are not above anyone else. They serve the community. The community does not serve them. What about crime? Dr. Veth asked. Surely there are beings who break rules, who harm others. Yuki's face became slightly sad. Sometimes it is rare, but it happens. When it does, we focus on understanding why. Most crime comes from unmet needs, fear, pain, trauma. We try to address those root causes rather than simply punishing the behavior. And if someone cannot be rehabilitated, then they are separated from society, not as punishment, but as protection. They live in comfortable communities with others like them. They receive treatment and care. We do not give up on anyone, but we also do not allow them to harm others. The tour continued. They saw schools where children of different species learned together, hospitals where any illness could be cured, research facilities where scientists worked on problems that would benefit the entire galaxy. And they saw the refugees. In a quiet park near the center of the city, they came upon a group of beings sitting in a circle. They were thin and worn. Their eyes held the hollow look of those who had seen terrible things. A human woman sat with them, speaking softly, listening carefully. Survivors of a client species rebellion, Yuki explained quietly. The consortium crushed their uprising, destroyed their homeworld. These 47 are all that remain of a species that once numbered in the billions. How did they escape? Siltharan asked. We brought them out. We have rescue teams throughout consortium space. When we learn of disasters or atrocities, we send help. We cannot save everyone, but we save who we can. Kethran was staring at the survivors with an expression Siltharan could not read. Pain, guilt, recognition. I knew, he said suddenly. His voice cracked. I knew about the uprising. I heard reports. They told us the rebels were dangerous terrorists. They told us the destruction of their world was necessary, and I believed them. I believed every word. Tears began running down his scaled face. What have I been serving? What have I been part of? Yuki walked over to him and placed a gentle hand on his arm. You were lied to, she said softly. You were taught to believe things that were not true. That is not your fault. The fault belongs to those who told the lies. But I could have questioned. I could have looked closer. I could have done something. Perhaps. Or perhaps you would have been silenced before you could make a difference. The consortium is very good at eliminating threats. You did what you needed to survive. Now you have a chance to do something else. Catherine looked at her with desperate hope. What can I do? How can I make up for what I have supported? By living, Yuki said simply. By learning. By becoming the best version of yourself. And someday, perhaps by helping others find the truth, as you have found it. She smiled at him. That is how change happens, young one. One person at a time. One decision at a time. One small act of courage at a time. You have already taken the hardest step. You chose to stay when you could have forgotten. That took more strength than you know. Catherine could not speak. He just nodded, more tears flowing freely. The tour ended at a large building on the edge of the city. It was different from the others. Taller, more solemn, made of dark stone that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. This is the Memorial of Echoes, Yuki said. Her voice had become serious, reverent. Before you begin your new lives, I want to show you this place. I want you to understand what we are, what we carry with us. They entered through tall doors that opened silently. Inside, the building was one vast hall. The ceiling stretched up beyond sight. The walls were covered in names. Millions of names. Billions, maybe. Carved into the stone in scripts from 1,000 different languages. Every name you see here is someone humanity has been forced to kill, Yuki said quietly. Every being who died at our hands is remembered here. Every soldier who attacked our worlds. Every raider who tried to take what was ours. Every spy who tried to steal our secrets. We do not celebrate these deaths. We mourn them. Siltherin stared at the endless walls of names. Why? They were your enemies. They came to harm you. They were people, Yuki replied. They had families, hopes, dreams. Most of them did not choose to be our enemies. They were sent by governments that lied to them, commanded by leaders who did not care about their lives. They were victims too, in their own way. She walked deeper into the hall. We believe that killing should never be easy. It should never be celebrated. It should hurt. It should leave a mark on the soul. By remembering every death, we remind ourselves of the cost of violence. We remind ourselves why we must always seek peace first. But you are prepared for war, Torak observed. I can see it in your technology, in your defenses. You have the power to destroy fleets, to crush armies. You are not pacifists. No, Yuki agreed. We are not pacifists. We believe in defending ourselves, in protecting the innocent, in standing against evil. But we do not believe in conquest, in domination, in power for its own sake. She stopped in front of a section of wall and touched a name carved there. This was a young pilot from a consortium warship. She was 23 years old. She had a younger brother who wanted to be a scientist. She loved a type of music from her homeworld that involved bells and chimes. She came to our space because she was ordered to. She attacked our ships because she was taught we were monsters. And we killed her because we had no choice. Yuki's voice was thick with emotion. I carry her memory with me. I carry all of them. That is what this place is for, to remind us that every death diminishes us, even the deaths of our enemies. She turned to face the group. We do not enter consortium space with fleets and armies. We do not spread across the galaxy like a plague, taking what we want. We stay here, behind our borders, building our society, raising our children, not because we are weak, not because we are afraid. Her eyes met Siltherin's. We stay because we know what we are capable of. We have seen the darkness within ourselves. We have touched the edges of our own potential for destruction, and it terrified us. It terrified us more than any enemy ever could. She spread her arms to encompass the entire hall. This is our reminder. This is our warning to ourselves. This is why we choose patience over power, peace over victory, isolation over empire. She smiled, but it was a sad smile, a smile that carried centuries of weight. We do not want to become the thing we hate. We do not want to look in the mirror one day and see the consortium staring back. So we remember, we mourn, we wait, and we hope that someday the galaxy will be ready for a different way. The group stood in silence for a long time. The weight of all those names pressed down on them. The enormity of what humanity had done and what humanity had chosen not to do filled the space like a physical presence. Finally, Siltherin spoke. I understand now. I understand why you hide, why you wait, why you let ships come and go instead of destroying them all. Do you? Yuki asked. Yes. Siltherin looked around at the walls of names. You are protecting us from yourselves. You are giving the galaxy time to grow up, to learn, to become worthy of knowing you. Yuki's smile grew warmer, prouder. You understand better than most, Commander. That is exactly what we are doing. We are waiting for the galaxy to be ready, and someday, when the time is right, we will step out of the shadows, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as friends, as partners, as equals. She took Siltherin's hand. That day may not come in my lifetime. It may not come for centuries, but it will come. And when it does, beings like you will help bridge the gap between our world and theirs. Me. Yes, you. You have seen both sides now. You understand the consortium and its flaws. You understand us and our hopes. You can help build the future we dream of. She looked at the entire group. All of you can. That is why we welcome refugees, not just to save them from suffering, but because they bring perspective, experience, knowledge. Every being who joins us makes us stronger, wiser, better. She began walking toward the exit. Come, you have seen enough sorrow for one day. Let me show you the gardens. Let me show you the children playing. Let me show you the future we are building, one day at a time. They followed her out of the Memorial of Echoes, leaving the weight of those names behind, but not forgetting them, never forgetting them. That was the point, after all, to remember, to learn, to become something better than what came before. And for the first time in centuries, Siltherin believed it might actually be possible. 3 weeks had passed on New Eden, 3 weeks of peace and wonder and healing. The refugees from the Velith Kai had been given homes in harmony, small apartments with views of the gardens, comfortable beds, fresh food, everything they needed. Siltherin spent the days learning about human history, learning about their technology, learning about the strange and beautiful society they had built. Every answer raised new questions. Every discovery revealed new depths. Torak had found work in an engineering lab, helping human scientists develop new systems. His mechanical skills were impressive, and the humans treated him as an equal. He smiled more now. He spoke more now. The quiet giant was finally finding his voice. Dr. Veth had joined a medical team. She was fascinated by human medicine, their ability to cure diseases that had plagued the galaxy for millions of years, their understanding of biology that went far beyond anything the consortium possessed. She stayed up late reading research papers and woke up early to practice new techniques. The brother and sister, whose names were Meltara and Veltorin, had enrolled in a university. They were studying something called comparative civilizations, learning how different species organized their societies, understanding why some succeeded and others failed. They had never been allowed to study such things in the consortium, and Catherine had become quiet. He attended the integration classes. He learned the language. He followed all the rules. But there was something wrong, something haunted in his eyes, something he was not telling anyone. Siltherin noticed but did not push. Everyone healed at their own pace. Everyone carried their own burdens. Catherine would talk when he was ready, or so Siltherin thought. It was late evening when the knock came at Siltherin's door. The commander was reading a book about Earth's history, the great wars, the climate crisis, the near-extinction event, the recovery. Humans had survived so much, learned so much from their suffering. The knock was soft, hesitant. "Come in," Siltherin called. The door opened and Catherine entered. His scales had lost their color. His eyes were red from crying. He looked like a being carrying the weight of an entire world. "Commander," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "I need to tell you something." Siltherin set down the book. "Sit. Tell me." Catherine did not sit. He paced back and forth, his clawed hands clenching and unclenching. "I have done something terrible, something unforgivable. I have been carrying this secret since before we crossed the beacon line. I tried to tell myself it did not matter, that it would never be discovered. But I cannot live with it anymore. I cannot keep lying. Siltherin felt a chill run down their spine. What secret? Catherine stopped pacing. He turned to face the commander, and his expression was that of a being who had already accepted his death. The Velith Kai was never just a scout ship. The mission was never just to gather information. The consortium knew we would probably be captured or killed. They planned for it. What do you mean? There is a device hidden in the ship's hull, a quantum beacon. It has been broadcasting our location since the moment we crossed into human space. Every system we passed through, every stop we made, everything has been transmitted back to the consortium. Siltherin's blood went cold. No. Yes. They know where New Eden is. They know the coordinates. They have known for weeks. Catherine's voice cracked. And there is a fleet, a battle fleet, 3,000 warships. They were waiting at the border for the signal. They crossed into human space 5 days ago. Siltherin stared at him in horror. 5 days? Why are you only telling me now? Because I was afraid. Catherine fell to his knees, his body shaking with sobs. I was afraid of what they would do to me. I was afraid of what you would think. I told myself maybe the humans would detect the fleet. Maybe they would stop it. Maybe I would not have to confess. He looked up with desperate eyes. But they are still coming. The beacon is still transmitting, and I cannot let this happen without warning them. Even if it means my death. Even if it means everything. Siltherin's mind was racing. 3,000 warships, the largest fleet the consortium had assembled in centuries, heading straight for New Eden, for the homes they had been given. For the people who had shown them nothing but kindness. We need to tell Alara, Siltherin said, standing quickly. We need to tell her now. They found Alara in the city center, sitting at a cafe with grandmother Yuki. The two women were drinking tea and talking quietly. They looked up as Siltherin and Catherine approached. Alara saw their faces and knew immediately that something was wrong. Tell me, she said simply. Catherine told her everything. The hidden beacon, the battle fleet, the consortium's plan. He confessed it all, his voice breaking, his body trembling. When he finished, he knelt on the ground and waited for judgment. Alara and Yuki exchanged a long look. A look that held more meaning than Siltherin could understand. Then, to Siltherin's complete shock, Alara smiled. We know, she said quietly. Catherine looked up. What? We have known about the beacon since before your ship crossed the border. We detected the quantum signature immediately. We have been monitoring its transmissions from the beginning. But why did you let us stay? Why did you bring us here? Why did you not stop it? Yuki leaned forward. Her old eyes were gentle but very, very serious. Because we wanted to give you the chance to tell us yourself. We wanted to see what kind of people you truly were. Whether you would confess when the cost was high. Whether your conscience would overcome your fear. She reached out and lifted Catherine's chin with one finger. You passed the test, young one. It took you longer than we hoped. But you told the truth when it mattered. That takes courage. Real courage. But the fleet, Siltherin interrupted. 3,000 warships are coming. What are you going to do? Alara stood up. Her smile was still there, but now it held something else. Something that made Siltherin's skin prickle with unease. What we have always been prepared to do, she said. What we have been waiting 200 years to do. She pulled out a small device and pressed a button. A soft chime sounded. This is Shepard Vance, she said into the device. Code Omega 7. The long wait is over. Activate all protocols. Repeat, the long wait is over. The response came immediately. A single word spoken by 1,000 voices at once. Acknowledged. All around the city, things began to change. Lights flickered. The ground hummed. In the distance, Siltherin could see ships rising from hidden hangars. Not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands. Tens of thousands. They filled the sky like a swarm of stars. What is happening? Catherine whispered. We are revealing ourselves, Yuki said calmly. She finished her tea and set down the cup. The consortium has forced our hand. We can no longer hide. So we will show them what we truly are. She stood and looked up at the sky full of ships. We will show them everything. The next hours were a blur. Siltherin and the other refugees were taken to a command center deep beneath the city. There, surrounded by screens and displays and busy humans, they watched the situation unfold. The consortium fleet was still coming. 3,000 warships, approaching New Eden at maximum speed. They were expecting an easy victory, a primitive enemy, a quick conquest. They were wrong. From across human space, forces were converging. Sleeper fleets that had been hidden in dead systems for centuries came awake. Automated defense platforms the size of moons, powered up in nebulae the consortium thought were empty. Stealth stations that had been watching consortium space for generations revealed themselves. The numbers were staggering. For every consortium ship, there were 100 human vessels. For every consortium weapon, there were 1,000 human counterparts. The scale of human preparation was beyond anything Siltherin could have imagined. "How?" was all the commander could say. "How did you build all this without anyone knowing?" "Time," a human officer replied. He was young, with short dark hair and calm gray eyes. "We had 200 years to prepare, 200 years to plan, 200 years to build. We knew this day would come eventually. We made sure we would be ready." "But why did you hide it? You could have revealed this at any time. You could have forced the consortium to treat you as equals." "Force creates resentment. Resentment creates conflict. Conflict creates destruction." The officer shrugged. "We did not want to rule the galaxy. We wanted to change it. And change takes time. Patience. Persistence." He turned back to his screens. "Besides, we were not ready to reveal ourselves. We needed to be sure we would not become what we were fighting against. We needed to build a society worthy of the power we held. That was the harder challenge. The military part was easy. On the screens, the consortium fleet had entered the outer system of New Eden. They were beginning to detect the human forces arrayed against them. Their communications were filled with confusion and fear. "What are those ships? Where did they come from? This is impossible. The humans cannot have this kind of force." Ilara stood at the center of the room, watching everything with that calm, patient expression. When the time was right, she nodded to the communications officer. "Open a channel, all frequencies. Let them hear us." The officer complied. A moment later, Ilara's voice was broadcast across the system. "Consortium Fleet, this is Captain Ilara Vance of the Terran Shepherd Corps. You have entered our space without permission. You have come with weapons armed and hostile intent clear. We know why you are here. We know what you were ordered to do." She paused. "We are giving you a choice. The same choice we give to everyone who crosses our borders. You can stand down. Power down your weapons. Accept our offer of asylum. You will be protected. Your families will be told you are alive. You will never have to serve the consortium again." Another pause. "Or you can fight. You can follow your orders and attack. But understand this. You will not win. You will not even come close. We have been preparing for this moment for 200 years. Every contingency has been planned for. Every outcome has been calculated. There is no scenario in which you achieve victory." Her voice softened. "We do not want to kill you. We have never wanted to kill anyone. But we will defend ourselves. We will protect our people. We will preserve what we have built. If you force us to destroy you, we will mourn you. We will remember your names. We will add them to our memorial." She took a breath. "But you will still be dead. Your choice." The channel went silent. The command center held its breath. Then one by one, the consortium ships began to respond. "This is Commander Velthon of the Righteous Fury. I am standing down, requesting asylum. This is Captain Shenra of the Iron Justice, powering down weapons. Please do not fire. This is Admiral Kethamora of the Third Fleet. I am accepting your offer. I am ordering my ships to stand down." It spread like a fire through dry grass. Ship after ship declared their surrender. Captain after captain chose peace over pointless death. Within the first hour, 40% of the consortium fleet had defected, but not all of them. On the screens, a group of ships remained active. Weapons hot, shields raised. They clustered together at the center of the fleet, ignoring the calls of their former allies. "Those are the true believers," Ilara said quietly. "The ones who cannot accept that everything they believed was a lie. The ones who would rather die than admit they were wrong." How many? Siltherin asked. About 600 ships, mostly older commanders, veterans who have served the consortium for centuries. For them, accepting the truth would mean their entire lives were wasted. They cannot face that, so they will fight instead. What will you do? Alara's expression did not change. What we must. The battle, when it came, lasted 11 minutes. Siltherin watched it on the screens, unable to look away. The consortium loyalists charged toward New Eden, their weapons blazing, their shields flaring. They fought with desperate courage, with religious fervor. They believed they were heroes facing overwhelming odds for the glory of their cause. They were wrong about many things, but they were not wrong about the odds. Human ships moved with impossible speed and precision. Their weapons struck with surgical accuracy. One by one, the consortium vessels were disabled. Not destroyed, disabled. Their engines crippled, their weapons silenced, their shields collapsed. No killing shots were fired. No nuclear blasts vaporized helpless crews. Instead, human shuttles swarmed around the crippled ships, cutting through hulls and evacuating survivors. Tractor beams pulled damaged vessels to safety. Even in victory, the humans refused to become what they despised. When it was over, 600 ships drifted helplessly in space. Their crews sat in emergency shelters, confused and defeated. Their admirals and commanders were taken into custody, not for punishment, but for evaluation, medical treatment, counseling. Some of them will recover, Yuki said. She had joined them in the command center, watching the end of the battle with ancient eyes. Some will come to understand the truth and find peace. Others will never accept it. They will live out their lives in comfortable isolation, unable to join a society they cannot believe in. You will not execute them? Catherine asked. They tried to kill you. They would have destroyed this world if they could. Execution solves nothing, Yuki replied. It creates martyrs. It feeds the cycle of violence. We choose a different path, even for our enemies, especially for our enemies. She looked at him with those wise, gentle eyes. That is the difference between us and them, young one. They believe power gives them the right to take lives. We believe power gives us the responsibility to preserve them. Over the next hours, more information came in. The news of the battle was spreading across the galaxy. The consortium's great fleet, defeated without a single human casualty. 3,000 ships neutralized by a force that had appeared from nowhere. But that was not the most shocking news. The most shocking news came from consortium space itself. They are collapsing, the communications officer reported. Internal rebellions on 17 worlds. Client species rising up. Military commanders refusing orders. The government is in chaos. Ilara nodded as if she had expected this. The agents. Agents? Siltherin asked. We told you we had operatives inside the consortium. Humans who had integrated into their societies. They were not just spreading ideas. They were waiting for a signal. When we revealed ourselves, when we showed our true strength, they knew the time had come. She smiled slightly. They have released everything, every document, every recording, every piece of evidence we have collected over 2 centuries. The proof of consortium atrocities is flooding across every communication network in the galaxy. Every citizen is seeing the truth about their government. On the screens, images appeared. Crowds in the streets of consortium worlds. Not fighting, not rioting, just standing, watching, absorbing the truth that had been hidden from them for so long, and beginning to demand change. It is happening, Yuki whispered, after 200 years of waiting, of hoping, of believing. It is finally happening. She turned to face the group. Tears were running down her ancient face. The long wait is over. The new age is beginning, and you are all here to see it. Siltherin looked at the screens, at the defecting fleet, at the collapsing consortium, at the galaxy finally learning the truth, and felt something they had not felt in 400 years. Hope, real hope, not the false hope of following orders and trusting the system, not the quiet hope of just surviving another day, but genuine, blazing, unstoppable hope. The galaxy was changing, the future was being written, and Siltherin was part of it. Beside them, Catherine was crying too. But these were not tears of shame or fear. They were tears of relief. His confession had not doomed them. It had helped free them. His secret had not destroyed New Eden. It had triggered its salvation. He had been carrying guilt for weeks. Now that guilt was transforming into something else. Purpose. He looked at Siltheron with new eyes. "What happens now, Commander?" Siltheron smiled. For the first time in centuries, that smile was genuine. "Now we help build a new galaxy, one that deserves the beings who live in it." They stood together and watched the future unfold. The galaxy was burning, not with fire, but with truth. In the weeks after the Battle of New Eden, everything changed. The evidence released by human agents spread through every corner of known space. Documents that proved centuries of lies. Recordings that showed the true face of the consortium. Testimonies from survivors of destroyed worlds, their voices finally heard after generations of silence. The consortium tried to suppress it. They blocked communications. They arrested dissidents. They threatened punishment for anyone who shared the forbidden files. But it was like trying to stop a flood with a paper wall. The truth was everywhere. The truth could not be contained. On world after world, beings looked at the evidence and recognized themselves in it. They saw the client species programs for what they really were. They understood why certain planets had been quarantined or lost to natural disasters. They connected the dots that their leaders had worked so hard to keep separate. And they were angry, not violent anger for the most part. The humans had released more than just evidence. They had released ideas, philosophies, stories of peaceful resistance and nonviolent change. Their agents had spent decades planting seeds of a different way. Now those seeds were blooming all at once. Protests filled the streets of 1,000 worlds. Workers refused to follow unjust orders. Soldiers laid down their weapons. Politicians who had served the old system found themselves abandoned by everyone who had once followed them. The consortium did not collapse in a single day. It took months. But every day, more pieces fell. More beings chose freedom. More systems declared independence. And through it all, humanity waited. They did not invade. They did not conquer. They did not use their overwhelming military advantage to impose a new order. They simply opened their borders and said, "Anyone who needs help is welcome." The refugees came in waves. Former client species who had finally broken free. Dissidents who had been hunted by the old government. Ordinary beings who simply wanted to start fresh somewhere clean. Human ships met them at the border and guided them to safety. Human hands helped them build new lives. Siltheron watched it all from New Eden. The former commander had become something new now, an ambassador, a bridge between the old world and the new. Humans came to ask questions about consortium culture. Refugees came seeking advice from someone who understood both sides. It was strange work, difficult work, but it felt right in a way nothing had felt right in 400 years. Torak had become a hero of sorts. His engineering skills had helped design new ships to handle the refugee waves. His quiet strength had comforted countless beings who arrived scared and lost. He had found his purpose at last. Dr. Uninvited was leading a medical team that traveled to struggling worlds. They brought human medicine to beings who had never known anything but suffering. They cured diseases that had plagued populations for generations. She wrote letters to Siltheron, describing the joy on faces when patients were told they would live. "It made everything worth it," she said. Meltara and Veltorin, the brother and sister, had finished their studies and now taught at the university. They specialized in helping former consortium citizens understand what had happened, why they had believed lies, how they could build something better. It was healing work, necessary work, and Kethrin had found his own path. He had asked to join the Shepherd Corps, the same organization that Alara belonged to. The beings who patrolled the borders and offered choices to those who crossed. He wanted to give others what Alara had given him, a chance, an option, a way out. His application had been accepted. His training was going well. Soon he would have his own ship patrolling the expanding edge of human space, waiting for lost travelers who needed a guide. Siltheron was proud of him, proud of all of them. They had come so far from the frightened crew of the Velith Kai. They had become something new, something better. 1 year after the Battle of New Eden, Siltheron received a special invitation, a ceremony on Earth, the human homeworld, the place where all of this had begun. The trip took only hours. Human faster-than-light technology was still almost magical to Siltherin. Distances that would have taken weeks or months vanished in moments. Earth was beautiful. Siltherin had seen images, of course, had read about the blue planet in countless history files, but nothing compared to seeing it with their own eyes. The oceans, the continents, the clouds swirling over mountains and forests and deserts. A world that had nearly destroyed itself and then clawed back from the edge of death. It was a symbol, Siltherin realized, a living symbol of what humanity believed. That destruction was not inevitable, that recovery was always possible, that the worst moments could lead to the best outcomes if beings chose to make it so. The ceremony was held on a beach, white sand, blue water, a sky full of stars becoming visible as the sun set. Thousands of beings had gathered, humans and aliens, former enemies and new friends, all watching as history was made. Grandmother Yuki stood at the center of the gathering. She was dressed in simple white robes as always. Her silver hair caught the dying light. Her ancient eyes held the weight of centuries. For 200 years, she began, her voice somehow carrying to every ear. We have lived behind walls. We built those walls to protect ourselves, to give the galaxy time to grow, to wait for the moment when truth could break through lies. She paused. That moment has come. The walls are no longer needed. The waiting is over. She raised her hand, and across the sky, lights began to appear. Not stars, ships, millions of ships, the entire human fleet, gathered in orbit around their homeworld for the first time in history. Today we open our borders. Today we invite the galaxy to know us, not as the mysterious beings behind the warning beacons, not as the silent watchers in the dark, but as neighbors, partners, friends. The ships in the sky began to move, spreading out, heading toward every corner of known space, not as conquerors, as helpers, as hands reaching out to lift up those who needed lifting. The old consortium is gone. What rises in its place is not ours to dictate. We will help where we are asked. We will advise where we are welcome. But we will not impose. We will not rule. That is not our way. Yuki smiled. It was a smile of pure joy, of relief, of hope fulfilled. We have been waiting for this moment for so long, waiting for the galaxy to be ready, waiting for beings of courage and conscience to stand up and demand better. You have done that, all of you. Every being who chose truth over comfortable lies, every being who risked everything for justice. You made this moment possible. She spread her arms wide, embracing everyone present. So this is our invitation. Come to us, learn from us, teach us, share with us. Help us build a galaxy where every being has value, where every voice matters, where power serves instead of dominates. Her voice dropped to something almost intimate. It will not be easy. There will be challenges, disagreements, setbacks. The path to a better future is never smooth. But we have walked that path before. We know it can be done, and now we walk it together. She lowered her arms. Welcome to the new age. Welcome to a galaxy without borders. Welcome home. The crowd erupted in cheers. Beings of every species embraced each other. Tears flowed freely. Laughter mixed with sobs of relief. Centuries of separation and fear and hiding were finally over. Siltherin stood apart from the crowd, watching it all with wonder. So much had changed in just 1 year. So much more would change in the years to come. A hand touched their arm. It was Alara. "How are you feeling, Ambassador?" she asked with that familiar warm smile. "Overwhelmed," Siltherin admitted. "A year ago, I was commanding a dying ship on a suicide mission. Now I am standing on Earth, watching the galaxy transform. Strange how life works, isn't it?" "Very strange." Siltherin looked at her. "May I ask you something?" "Anything." "When you boarded the Velith Kai, did you know all of this would happen? Did you know about the beacon, the fleet, the collapse of the consortium?" Ilara's smile became thoughtful. "We knew it was possible. We had planned for many scenarios. But nothing is ever certain. The future is not written until we write it." She paused. "When I met you and your crew, I did not know what you would choose. I hoped, but I did not know. And if we had chosen differently, If we had all rejected your offer and tried to fight, then events would have unfolded differently, perhaps worse, perhaps better in ways we cannot imagine. That is the nature of choice. It changes everything. She looked out at the celebrating crowd. That is why we value it so highly. Choice is the most powerful force in the universe, more powerful than any weapon, any technology, any fleet of ships. What beings choose to do matters more than anything else. A heavy philosophy. A true one. You chose to stay when you could have fled. You chose truth when you could have forgotten. Those choices led here, to this moment, to a galaxy being reborn. She turned back to Siltherin. Never underestimate the power of a single choice made by a single being at the right moment. History turns on such choices. Before Siltherin could respond, Grandmother Yuki approached them. The ancient woman was still glowing with joy, but there was something specific in her eyes. A purpose. Ambassador Siltherin, she said, I have a question for you. Siltherin bowed slightly. Of course, Grandmother. We are establishing a new council, representatives from every species who wishes to participate, a place where the galaxy can come together to discuss, debate, and decide how to move forward. Not a government, not a consortium. Just a forum for voices to be heard. She tilted her head. We would like you to be one of the founding members. You have perspective that few others possess. You understand both the old ways and the new. You can help bridge the gap between those who remember the consortium and those who are just now learning to be free. Siltherin was stunned. Me? But I am no one. A former commander of a forgotten ship. I have no special qualifications. You have something better than qualifications, Yuki replied. You have experience, wisdom, and most importantly, you have proven that you can change, that you can look at everything you believed and admit it was wrong, that you can choose a new path even when the old one is comfortable. She smiled. Those are rare qualities, Ambassador, rarer than you know. We need beings like you if this new galaxy is to work. Siltherin looked at Alara. The shepherd nodded encouragingly. They looked at the crowd, at the celebrating beings of 100 species, at the ships overhead, spreading hope across the stars. They thought about the Velethkai, about the crew that had been, about the choices that had led to this moment, and they made one more choice. I accept, Siltherin said. I will serve on your council. I will do whatever I can to help build this new future. Yuki's smile widened. Excellent. I knew you would say yes. I could see it in your eyes from the moment Alara brought you to us. How? Because you have always been a protector at heart, Siltherin. You followed the consortium because you believed you were protecting order, protecting stability. Now you know there are better things to protect. Justice, freedom, truth. She placed a hand on their shoulder. Some beings are born to guard what matters. You are one of them. Siltherin felt something shift inside. A final piece falling into place, a purpose finally clear after 4 centuries of searching. Thank you, Grandmother, for everything, for the choice you offered, for the truth you revealed, for the new life you have given me and my crew. Thank yourself, Yuki replied. We offered the choice. You made it. You did the hard work of changing. We just showed you the door. You walked through it. The ceremony continued into the night. Music played, stories were shared. Bonds were formed between beings who would have been enemies a year ago. The new galaxy was being born, one connection at a time. Later, as the stars wheeled overhead and the crowds began to thin, Siltherin found a quiet spot on the beach. The waves whispered against the sand. The wind carried the scent of salt and growing things. Kethran found them there. The young officer was different now, stronger, more confident. The guilt that had haunted him was gone, replaced by purpose. Ambassador, he said, sitting beside Siltherin, I heard about the council. Congratulations. Thank you, and congratulations to you. I hear you finished your shepherd training last week. Kethran nodded. I leave for my first patrol in 3 days. I will be covering the outer sectors, near the old consortium border. There are still ships crossing over, refugees, explorers, some who are just curious. Will you give them the same choice Alara gave us? The exact same choice. Stay and find peace, or leave and forget. He paused. Though I do not think many will choose to forget anymore. The truth is everywhere now. There is nothing to hide from. Still, some will be afraid. Some will not trust what they find here. Then I will be patient with them. I will show them kindness even when they do not deserve it. I will offer them hope even when they have none. Catherine smiled slightly. That is what shepherds do. Silthern nodded. You have come a long way, young one. From the terrified officer on the bridge of the Velethkai to a guardian of human space. I am proud of you. Catherine's scales flushed with emotion. I could not have done it without you, Commander. You showed me that change was possible, that even old loyalties could be questioned, that following orders was not the same as doing right. I learned those lessons at the same time you did, but you learned them faster. You were braver. Catherine looked out at the ocean. I almost did not confess about the beacon. I almost let my fear doom this world. If you had not created a crew where truth was valued, where conscience was allowed, I might never have found the courage. Silthern considered this. Perhaps, or perhaps you would have found it anyway. Perhaps the truth inside you was stronger than the lies you were taught. We will never know. What matters is that when the moment came, you made the right choice. That is all anyone can do. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The waves continued their eternal song. The stars continued their eternal dance. Finally, Catherine spoke again. What do you think will happen now, Ambassador? With the galaxy, I mean. Will it really change? Or will new tyrants rise to replace the old ones? Silthern thought about it carefully. I think both will happen. Some beings will try to build new empires. Some will cling to the old ways. There will be conflicts, setbacks, disappointments. The work of changing a galaxy is not finished in a day or a year or even a century. That sounds discouraging. It would be, except for one thing. Silthern turned to face the young shepherd. Now there is a counterweight. Now there are beings who have seen what is possible, who know that a better way exists, who will fight for justice even when it seems hopeless. They gestured at the beach, at the ships overhead, at everything humanity had built. 200 years ago, the humans could have conquered everything. They had the power. They had the technology. Instead, they chose to wait, to prepare, to become worthy of the future they wanted to create. That patience, that restraint, that faith in a better tomorrow, it is the most remarkable thing I have ever seen. Silthern smiled. If they could do that, I believe the rest of us can learn from their example. It will take time. It will take work. But the seed has been planted. The idea has spread. And ideas once released cannot be unthought. Catherine nodded slowly. So there is hope. There is always hope. That is perhaps the most important thing humanity has taught me. No matter how dark things seem, no matter how powerful the forces of tyranny, there is always hope. And where there is hope, there is the possibility of change. Catherine rose to his feet. Then I will carry that hope with me on my patrols. I will share it with every being I meet. I will be a shepherd in truth, not just in name. I know you will. The young officer saluted. It was an old consortium gesture, but it felt different now. Not a sign of blind obedience, a sign of respect. Goodbye, Ambassador, until we meet again. Goodbye, Shepherd. May your journeys be safe and your choices be wise. Catherine walked away into the night. Silthern watched him go, then turned back to the ocean. The waves whispered their endless song. The stars watched from above, and somewhere out there, across the vast reaches of space, a galaxy was being reborn. It would not be easy. Nothing worth doing ever was. But for the first time in centuries, the future felt bright. Silthern thought about the title of this story. No one enters human space uninvited, unless coming back was never the intention. It had seemed like a warning once, a threat, a promise of destruction for those who dared to trespass. Now Silthern understood its true meaning. Those who came with violence in their hearts never returned because they met the only force greater than their hatred, a civilization that would not become what it fought. Those who came with fear in their hearts never returned because they found something better, a home, a purpose, a reason to stop running. And those who came with hope in their hearts never returned because they did not need to. They had found what they were looking for. They had found family. The warning beacons were silent now. In their place, a new message broadcast across the stars. A message that Siltherin had helped write. A message that would echo through history for generations to come. Welcome to Terran Sovereignty Space. You are invited. We have been waiting for you. No more hiding, no more walls, no more waiting. Just an open door and a light in the darkness, inviting the lost and the lonely to come home. Siltherin smiled and watched the sun begin to rise over the ocean. A new day, a new galaxy, a new beginning. It was beautiful.